Welcome participants. I am Shahab Fazal, faculty in the Department of Geography at Aligarh Muslim University. In this session, I would appraise you on the social dimension of pandemic. So here, social dimension explores the human and cultural aspects of different groups and how they interact with their respective environment, the surrounding, physical that is natural or more particularly man-made. It involves studying human behavior, social structures, customs and traditions. Understanding the social dimension, like a generic example could be the food habits. Here food that are culturally relevant and cater to the tastes and preferences of the specific social group population would be important. Like groups near water body consumes fish, and people in cold region depends largely on consuming animal meat. Now in this session, the phenomena under consideration is pandemic, which is a widespread occurrence of an infectious disease at a particular time. But here, focusing social dimension means understanding social and cultural dimension of the phenomena of pandemic. It is essential to the development of a rational and considered response of man individually or collectively as groups to pandemic. The social dimension here refers to the impact of pandemic on the life and work of people, on their families and their societies. Concerns and issues are often raised about the impact on people associated employment, working conditions, income and social protection. Beyond their work, their activity, the social dimension involves security, culture and identity, inclusion or exclusion and the cohesiveness of families and communities, etc. In this session, let us see some of the social dimensions to extend our discussion. Now the term pandemic is a widespread occurrence of an infectious disease at a particular time. Now the virus coexists with the human right from the very beginning. Viruses normally have a native area, their reservoir, from where they should not be pushed out. This creates a dangerous intimacy with hotspots that include locations such as markets or any crowded place, which become real hotbeds of epidemics. Diseases caused by viruses have occurred more frequently in recent decades, especially the zoonotic diseases. These are in which the virus passes from animal to humans. These zoonotic disease accounts for almost 75% of all emerging diseases in modern time. This is largely attributed to be facilitated by climate change through rapid change in temperature and humidity especially. The most fundamental way to protect ourselves from zoonotic disease is to prevent destruction of nature. So where ecosystems are healthy and places with greater biodiversity, they are resilient, adaptable and helpful to regulate diseases. Just to add, studies suggest that climate change increases the risk of epidemics, including through excessive deforestation that is believed to be responsible for almost 31% of zoonotic diseases. Climate change and deforestation increase animal migration and the link between them and humans, facilitating the transmission of viruses for animal to man and vice versa. Increasing weather fluctuations also facilitates transmission. Climate change leads to a decrease in number of animal population and therefore less genetic diversity, along with increasing conflicts between human migration, between nations and less efficient medical and sanitation systems. All this results in increasing the risk of epidemics and pandemics. The global temperature increases also in many ways reduces the human body's ability to fight the virus. While some animal can be less affected in the same situation, for example, bats are said to be in the situation are less affected. Another issue is depletion of food resources. Again, due to climate change, this can lead to people hunt wild animals like bats or camels, which are said to be possible carriers of coronavirus. So now social issues are concerned with the ways in which social relations, social identities and social inequalities are formed. The variation and the role of space in assembling them, it provides particular emphasis on the welfare issue, which affect people's lives. Social dimension aims to depict the form of influence which lead to social and spatial variations in the form of inequality and oppression or repression. Another can be study of patterns and processes in understanding socially defined people in a spatial setting. The study of spatial patterns and functional relations of the social groups in the context of their social environment. The internal structure and external relations at the core of social activity and the articulation of various networks of social communication. Next can be analysis of the social patterns and processes arising from the variable distribution or access to or scarcity or abundance of resources. An examination of societal causes and solutions to social and environment, the challenges. The understanding of the phenomena which arises from the social groups, mark of interactions and of the processes responsible in creating and altering such patterns. Next can be the social perspective, which involves going beyond personal experiences and opinions to understand broader social issues, patterns and possibilities. The focus on space and socio-spatial space, it is not just passive but fundamental to social relationships and hierarchies. And lastly, the social aspect in the context of pandemic is primarily considered and concerned with the ways in which social relations, identities and inequalities are created. Here the focus on these social creations vary from space. It vary over space, and the role of space in their construction is the principal distinction within the pandemic sociology. Continuing with the social issues of pandemic, another dimension can be the contrast among social creations. Here the social creations is critical, which refers to the mutual intersimulation and responses between two or more people through symbols, language, gestures and expression of ideas. Here social interaction is the foundation for society. Without interaction, there would be no group life. So social interaction has different form of interaction between individual to individual, individual to groups, groups to groups, and even individual and culture. Social issues of pandemic. Another important social issue of pandemic is the type of social groups. First can be the primary group, like families. They have direct and strong connect and association. The second can be secondary group, like workers in an industrial unit. They have more of association. Third, the self-identification group, like cricket team. They have specific association and roles to perform. Fourth can be a group, could be according to the purpose or according to the geographic location, where they have connection and association with location rather than social group. Now, the distinction between community and society. The primary difference between a community and society is that a community is limited to a specific geographic location, but a society can be made up of people who lives in different places. Another difference is that a society is made up of direct and indirect social creations, connections between people, whereas community is made up of individuals who are more closely connected. For example, people who live in town represents a community, whereas everyone who lives in a state where the town is located, it makes up a society. Several communities can be located within a society, but each society is separated from one another. So it means societies often include more diversity with people from different backgrounds, social classes, and races, while people in communities most often share similar characteristics. The concept of social space, it is a physical space, such as social center or other gathering, places where people mingle and interact. Some examples of social spaces such as town squares or parks or public places, and others such are like restaurant, shopping malls, or even the religious gathering. So space is social. It involves assigning appropriated places to social relations. Another socio-cultural regions, it is the soul of the places. The well we know the socio-cultural religion spaces, it is easier to understand the people, their activity, their culture, their behavior. We can also make distinction between them on the basis of their characteristic features. For example, some socio-cultural regions like vegetarian or non-vegetarian communities, or mustard oil users or coconut oil users, we can differ on hard and soft water availability to social groups because their response would be different. So the social structure, it is the distinctive stable arrangement of institutions whereby human beings in a society interact and stay together. Social structure is often treated together with the concept of social change, which deals with the forces that change the social structure and also the organization of society. Social structure refers to regularities in social life. However, its application is inconsistent. For example, the term is sometimes applied when other concepts such as custom, tradition, role, or norm would be more accurate. The studies of social structure attempt to explain matters such as integration and trends in inequality. In the study of these phenomena, the social perspective analyzes organizations and social categories such as age groups or the transformation within the society. The social processes, man is a social animal. It is difficult for him to live in isolation. They always live in groups. As members of these groups, they act in a certain manner. Their behavior is mutually affecting. This interaction or mutual activity is the essence of social life. Social life is not possible without interactions. Interactions are reciprocal relationships which not only influence the interacting individuals but also the quality of relations. A societal process refers to form of social interaction that occur again and again. The social processes are the ways in which individuals and groups interact, adjust and readjust, and establish relationships and patterns of behavior which are modified through social interactions. The concept of social process refers to some of the general and recurrent form that social interaction may take. The interaction or mutual activity is the essence of social life. Interaction between individuals and groups occurs in the form of social processes. The study of social phenomena, it can have different approaches. It might be quantitative in nature, might follow behavioral approach. Another can be the positivist approach, the approach of social problems and their identification and also rectification, the approach of social justice. In all these approaches, greater emphasis is given to provide alternative explanations and conceptions of social issues, attentive to everyday life experience. Methodological shifts from quantitative methods to qualitative methods, and recently the cultural turn which merges the social geography with more explicitly cultural interpretations. The borders between cultural and social phenomena have become more and more blurry. The socio-cultural phenomena where the role of space is important and culture evolve in relation to social issues, cultural politics, cultural identities and community. All these are characteristic features of daily life. Now coming to social dimension to pandemic, very quickly I put forward some explanations to few relevant terms in the context of social dynamism, transformations, impact or consequences. The first can be the health. Health refers to the impacts of the pandemic on human health and well-being. It is linked to the number of people affected and other impacts, for example, mental and emotional, caused by the pandemic, and also the associated restrictions. The second can be the social vulnerability. It refers to the harms and negative effect caused to sensitive and vulnerable groups in different regions due to differences in the level of access or to benefits or injustices. The third can be the social capital. It refers to the destructive effect of the pandemic on social capital and its indicators such as participation and trust and its different qualities in affected communities. Social mobility. It refers to the negative impacts of mobility, restrictions related to the pandemic on society. Among other things, such restrictions disrupt the human interactions and the ability to grow. Social relationships. It refers to the destructive effect and consequences of the pandemic on social relationships and coexistence in the society. Another can be the social welfare, which refers to the destructive effect and consequences of the pandemic on the livelihood and social welfare in various aspects. With this philosophical background, I bring in an example dealing with social dimension of pandemic. The world is more interdependent than at any other time in history. People have moved much faster than before, spreading disease faster to more places. Everything on our planet is connected in modern day time. The epidemic creates more confusion elsewhere than in the place of origin. We all know that in late 2019, a pandemic called as COVID-19 struck the humanity on earth, which appeared first in Wuhan in China, quickly became pandemic affecting many countries around the world, including India. The COVID-19 pandemic causes more than 7 lakh deaths worldwide and infected some 20 million people. Although quantifying the effects of the virus is useful for economic debates, identifying factors that spread the virus is also relevant. Indeed, in controlling the spread of the virus, several states have acted differently in taking short and long-term measures without any real scientific investigation on the relevance of these measures to limit the spread of the virus. In this regard, the much-talked success story of Bhilwara model is important to discuss, which dealt the social dynamics more than anything else. This example is from the district in Rajasthan with its effective screening and containment strategy combined with a stringent lockdown flattened the curve in a short span of 3 weeks. The core idea targeted breaking the social interaction chain. The district with 27 lakh population, of which roughly 78% rural, so a specific social characteristic. But the city of Bhilwara is an industrial town, altogether different societal setup. The district was among handful of districts in the country where the coronavirus pandemic threatened to spiral out of control, spreading at the local and community level. But the simple methodology which worked for containing the spread of virus and successfully flattened the curve of COVID-19 in only 20 days, largely with its effort on social containment. It applied through restricting social contact, through stringent lockdown, effective social coordination through able governance, identifying hotspot through cluster mapping and contact tracing. All of them were targeted on social interaction and curb on social dynamism. So now, just to summarize, you may have a fair idea about the social dimension of pandemic, where human activities, association and interactions are important. In this modern globalized world, the world is more interdependent than any other time in history. So this offers increased opportunities, but have downside also. All in all, social dynamics are important and critical and always have greater relevance in societal status and position. All in all, social dynamics are important and critical and always have greater relevance in societal status and position. So thank you. This was very important in the context of social values which are relevant for pandemic. Thank you.